Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video is a link to get £50 back for swapping your UK energy supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Brian's Logic, 10th Man, Chocolate Saying, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Yo, yo.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just been joined by Adam Meakin as well. Hello, Adam.
Good
Um,
Hello, Elijah. Hello, everyone else in Discord. Good weekend? Good to know. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
I was doing my pleasantries whilst on mute, Nathan. So, yes, I hope you had a good weekend too.
Nonsense to that.
Nonsense to Adam's weekend, or nonsense to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon?
No, never Adam's weekend.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Something covered in a few videos over the weekend.
Nonsense again.
apparently the Globers are confused and think that somehow that's our claim.
Yeah, that's getting straightened out at the moment. So, yes.
We can explain how we don't experience axial rotation. That's pretty much as far as the globe can go.
Yeah. Instead, they're claiming that there's unicorns in existence. We say no, there's no evidence of that. And they say, prove there's no evidence of unicorns. How are you saying that we would have unicorns? No, we're not. You are. We debunk it. We don't claim it. How
It's like we're in this weird place where, like, explaining the existence, the non-existence of something somehow confirms its existence. It's a little crazy.
or denying a claim that they make that we have 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath things. That's Coriolis effect. Non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath inertial reference frame, so we observe not actual drift from the spinning reference frame, Coriolis effect. Now, we know that they claim Coriolis effect, but when we point out that it doesn't happen, or we ask them to show us that happening, or say, well, Coriolis effect is non-inertial reference frames turning underneath things not attached, they say, we don't claim Earth has a turning underneath effect. You go, well, that's what Coriolis effect is. You don't understand what Coriolis is. Show us why you claim Earth should have things turning underneath. It's like, no, that's your claim that doesn't happen. Not for us to prove that you claim it. You absolutely do claim Coriolis effect. We just show it doesn't happen, and then suddenly it becomes the burden for us to prove that the globe claims it for the fundy that's had it demolished.
Which comes after like 3-4 years of them arguing this point. Like, like have they fallen that far gone? Have they gotten that far, like, just down the cliff? I mean, what's going on, man? Try to get a grip.
It's the old bait and
2021.
switch.
I used to think that, Neil. I've changed my mind. I used to think bait and switch. They want you to argue the toss about Earth turning underneath so they can deny it, and then have you detail how they argue Earth should turn underneath, because then you're effectively putting their argument forward for them. I thought that was what was happening. too complicated for the mere mortals that come here, if you ask me. What's more likely? That they're convoluting the position of Earth turning underneath to cause Coriolis effect with a claim that Earth doesn't have drift and travels with the atmosphere in violation of the first law of thermodynamics, because they want us to argue their position for them as we detail the actual globe claim, that's Coriolis effect and Earth turning underneath stuff to cause not actual drift, or that they're just in cognitive dissonance and holding two positions simultaneously. Position number one, we have Coriolis effect. That's Earth turning underneath, things not attached, and us watching them seem to drift when they're not. That's because we're turning underneath them, that's what Coriolis is. But when it's shown not to happen by a flat earther, go, we don't claim Earth should turn underneath. That's just holding two positions simultaneously. It's just cognitive dissonance. And from here on forward, I'm going to relinquish myself of that bait and switch, or they're trying to introduce an argument where I have to actually put forward the globe argument on their behalf. No, they're not clever enough to do any of that. They're just holding two positions at the same time. Earth does turn underneath to cause drift. Earth doesn't turn underneath, it travels with the atmosphere. That's just two positions held simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't there be a difference too at like 30 to 40,000 feet in altitude as well? So you should be able to detect that because the gradient is thinner.
No. If you've got
apparently
Coriolis
you don't have
effect,
to
no.
go that high.
No.
You
Let me
can
just
detect
explain for
it
the guy
from
who
a
asked.
football.
For the guy who asked, right? No. Coriolis effect is an observation of things seeming to drift. So when you say, well, shouldn't there be a great effect as you go up? Well, no. You're observing something that looks like it's drifting because you're turning underneath it, and that's it. So in terms of, well, does the projectile speed up, slow down, etc. when it raises in altitude, lowers, changes position on a non-inertial turning reference frame? None of those things matter. The only thing that matters is that you observe it as you turn underneath it. Well, as you turn underneath it, the effect that induces, or that you observe, is not actual deflection. In other words, it looks like a drone that hovers flies away from you on a roundabout. Well, you're moving away from it. You're turning underneath it. That's Coriolis effect. Likewise, on an Earth that's turning, it is claimed by you, globeheads. Don't be Simon Dan in this scenario and suddenly think this is my claim, right? It is claimed by the globe that it has Coriolis effect, meaning the following. You are claimed to stand on a turning Earth and see things seem to drift because you turn underneath them. Now, that's not my claim. Don't now challenge me to prove these reference frames I've detailed. The globe claims are real, but we don't see the effect of. We point out that we don't see that effect. We're not turning underneath anything. That's not an effect we observe. So don't now make it our claim, because it isn't. We pummel it, you claim it. Don't come here telling us, show us that we claim Earth turns underneath. Yeah, that's Coriolis effect, friends. You don't have to like it. You claim it, we don't.
Right, that's what I was meaning, because they claim lockstep. And I said, well, how is that? You would see the difference in an airplane on Earth.
Yeah, that's not Coriolis, though. Go on, Chocolate.
Exactly.
Go on, Chocolate.
If they're claiming lockstep, they're claiming no Coriolis then. But that's the claim, that they have Coriolis. That would be two reference frames, man. So they already killed their argument right there.
You say to them, look, planes aren't having their flight time shortened. Earth's not turning underneath them for us to observe them seem to drift as we turn underneath them. That's not happening. And they go, we wouldn't expect to see drift. So they simultaneously hold two positions simultaneously. They don't have an effect. They don't have Earth turning underneath anything. They assume it happens and will occasionally give an example with things like a football or a sniper's bullet in the air for a few seconds, as they absolutely assert that Earth is turning underneath it. But then when you say, well, Earth would turn underneath an aeroplane, it's also in the air, it's also left the ground. They argue for why we wouldn't see 15 degrees an hour drift. Just cognitive dissonance. You can't hold both positions simultaneously, but they do when we show it doesn't happen. But for clarity, the globe claims Coriolis effect. That's the claim. It just doesn't happen. When we point out it doesn't happen, they, on the globe side, tell us, prove we claim Coriolis. That's what they tell us. They drift. Nah, they travel together. They don't drift. Well, you're claiming Coriolis, that's drift. No, they travel together. Let's argue about how they don't drift. Because they're holding both positions. It's just that simple.
But see, the thing
And
about
they
the
say
Globers
no.
is they are actually not arguing for the Coriolis effect. They're arguing for what we know as globiolis. Because in their globiolis, the Earth is turning underneath things, but it's also not turning underneath things. So they can they can show that the Earth turned underneath something mathematically when it suits them. But we'd never see this happening. It's that kind of a big convoluted mess, because it was pointed out a few decades ago that we don't observe the Coriolis effect, so they mutated the whole thing. But the Globers are actually arguing for blue when we're arguing for red for the past several years. Whereas they think they're arguing for red, but they don't realize they're arguing for blue. If you don't understand what I mean. They're completely convoluted and messed up. They don't know what the Coriolis effect is, so they're arguing for something completely different that has no relevance in reality. It's purely
That's the
mathematical.
word I was using. That was
Yeah,
the
they
word I
call
was
it conservation of angular momentum.
But it's not
That's
even
not
the conservation of
Coriolis.
angular momentum, Rams.
That sounds like blah 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 excuse why we don't see this effect. That's actually our claim that we do see. That's
Yeah.
all that sounds like.
Their claim, let's get it clear, their claim is we do have drift. What's drift? Well, one thing drifting away from another. Well, in this instance, with an example of a hovering drone on a roundabout, you move away from it because you're turning underneath it on a roundabout. Well, that's drift. You moving away from it. So we should be moving away from stuff that's not attached to the Earth. That's their claim. Now, when we go, look, Earth's not moving away from an aeroplane in the air. They go, we wouldn't expect to. Why would you think we've got 15 degrees an hour Coriolis effect? Whatever gave you that idea? We don't see drift. They're travelling together. No drift. You go, what happened to the 15 degrees an hour drift? We wouldn't expect to see it. Prove to me we say we should. No, you do. You say Earth has a Coriolis effect. That's drift. Nah, drift is them moving together. What? That's what we get. Just two positions held simultaneously. Any more to add on Coriolis effect before we move on?
Yeah. What Don, I think it was Don said that when you go up higher in an airplane, where you're at a thinner, when the air is thinner and there's less pressure or whatever, then there should be more of a deviation there or whatever than there would be just hovering off the ground in their belief of what, right? But they will just say then, oh no, you have to go right up into space, you know, this kind of thing. So they can never support their claim, ever. Their claim is purely mathematical. They can never support it because their claim is not real. So all you could ever support it with is maths and diagrams. That's all.
Yeah. Bottom line, they claim Coriolis. Show us it happening. Show us things on Earth drifting away from one another because Earth's turning underneath, because that's what Coriolis is. Neil deGrasse Tyson asserts that that's what happens as a ball gets kicked from the field to make a goal. He says Earth turns underneath it. That's what causes the not actual deflection he said he saw from the stands. Because he's turning underneath the ball, it looks like it curves and goes through the goal. Well, that's Earth turning underneath the football. Exactly as claimed, that's Coriolis effect. Or snipers that have to lead their target because according to the fundies, they say Earth turns underneath the bullet. Until you point out that it doesn't turn underneath a drone, doesn't turn underneath a helicopter, doesn't turn underneath a hot air balloon, doesn't turn underneath an aeroplane, doesn't turn underneath you if you jump up and down, doesn't turn underneath anything that's in the air for a significant period, and they suddenly hold the other position. We shouldn't see 15 degrees an hour deviation. In fact, they'll go as far as Simon Dan and tell me that you and your reference frames are ruined. I don't have any reference frames to claim. Coriolis requires 2 of them. You need to prove they actually happen. And when we show they don't, you're going to tell us the reference frames are debunked? Well, wonderful, because you need them to claim that we've got drift that we don't see. Adam, did you want to present something?
Well, they have a myriad of ways to not actually answer the question, and that's why we can still, have hours upon hours of debate, because we allow them to answer questions that we've never asked. Like what Brian just said, like all they do is convolute the argument. Because you ask them, okay, there's a rotating platform that you're standing under that's curved. and we don't see any deviation. They don't ever actually address that point. They'll just say no, and no is sort of a way to reset the conversation, and then they'll answer a question that you've never asked. Same thing with the black swan. You want to keep them on the horizon. Yeah, but refraction. Yeah, but the everything else other than the actual argument. I'm getting tired of it.
Yeah, they're a shape-shifting moving target.
I like the refraction though. That's a concession to the argument. So yeah. Keep saying refraction, Globers.
Well, this fits under one
Correct.
of the symptoms. So Adam's got them up on screen now. That would be a feeble attempt at distraction.
And so I mean, we did this for Christmas, didn't we? But it still holds very true. That's why I put it up as you were describing the attempts through. They're all summarised nice and neatly as common symptoms of coriolis virus. So
The one on the toilet's great, man.
That's what this one is. A feeble attempt at distraction. Ask you a question about something that's unrelated. New normal reversal is to assert that you've got Coriolis effect. What's Coriolis effect? On a turning Earth, it's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath things in the inertial reference frame that have left the non-inertial spinning reference frame you're observing them from, to cause not actual deflection. That would be things drifting away from you. Not because a drone can hover at 1,000 miles an hour does it drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour, because on the equator it's claimed Earth turns underneath things not attached at 1,000 miles an hour. Now that effect doesn't happen, and when you point out as a flat earther to a globehead that does not happen, they will tell you that we wouldn't expect to see drift. That's new normal reversal. And when you point out that, well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says Earth turned underneath a football to make a field goal, they say, no, the priest's wrong. Earth and atmosphere move together, no 15 degrees an hour Coriolis effect. Tyson's wrong. That would be globe blasphemy, or doctoral denial of globe priests.
Just on what Rams said there earlier, Rams, I know they claim that what they're claiming as the Coriolis effect is the conservation of angular momentum. Now, for a start, as you know, that's the complete opposite from the Coriolis effect. Right, but they're not even claiming the conservation of angular momentum, because they are measuring angular rate, angular velocity, and angular momentum in linear miles per hour differentials, and that's what they're doing. So they'll take the distance around the equator and the distance 30 degrees north or south and say, well, that's a different distance around, so you'll only retain the conservation of where you of miles per hour momentum of where you leave on the globe. So
Stop. So when you leave the non-inertial spinning reference frame, no, that's not Coriolis, because Coriolis is observed from the non-inertial reference frame. So what they do is they start detailing what the projectile will do. It's nothing to do with what the projectile will do, because you observe Coriolis as you spin underneath things. It's the only way to get Coriolis. You attached and turning underneath. So they start detailing what the projectile's doing as it changes its linear velocity when they're describing an effect with angular momentum. Yeah, the projectile's nothing to do with it. Absolutely, unequivocally observed from a turning reference frame. If you've left it in the example while they detail the projectile, well, then you're not observing Coriolis because you're not turning underneath things anymore.
Exactly. It's an observation, correct?
That's what I call the okey doke.
But that's what they do. That's what exactly. That's Nathan is spot. That's exactly it. As soon as you leave, they're talking about the thing that's after leaving the rotating reference frame all the time, and they're giving it a miles per hour momentum, and they're making a mathematical deviation out of that. That's all they're doing.
You know who pointed that out to me? Zanuck. Yep, Zanuck. So I said you can leave an inertial and move to a non-inertial reference frame. And he's like, no, you can't. You can't leave reference frames. I'm like, I'm Miley fucking Cyrus. I can get off a pendulum. Yeah? You can change reference frames. Then he said, I can't remember if this is paraphrasing or an exact quote, Coriolis effect is only observed from the non-inertial reference frame. That's not verbatim, it might be paraphrased, but a quote from Zanuck. I was like, of course it is. To observe Coriolis, you've got to be turning underneath. When they say, no, we don't claim Earth turns underneath. It's like, that's what Coriolis is. You turning underneath. Literally all it is.
He tried to confuse people by saying, well, if the ball leaves the merry-go-round, if it's still in your eyesight, then it hasn't left the reference frame. That's how he tried to confuse people. Oh, so it's still in your eyesight, it's still in your view, but it hasn't left the reference frame because it's still in your view, even though it's not attached to the non-inertial reference frame anymore.
But that's when Virus came in and said he left his pants, but was still in it.
Well, you're
No,
screwing
that
with the
was a
timeline
different
a bit
show.
there. You're playing fast and loose with actually how things occurred in order. But no, and yes, he did say that. But no, not after Zanuck pointed that out.
That was before Zanuck pointed that. I remember that show clearly. He stuck his foot in his mouth, and it's never been the same since.
I wasn't saying in order of. I'm just saying Virus made the same claim by saying, well, I left my pants, but I'm still there in them, or whatever he said. It was like, what? That sounds like what Zanuck was trying to do.
Indeed. But what the point you need to take home if you're a flat earther arguing this is Coriolis effect can and only is observable from a turning reference frame. You want a roundabout looking at things not on the roundabout. You want a turning earth looking at things not on a turning earth. And the effect that you see because you're turning underneath them is Coriolis. The moment you get into a wrangle-dangle argument about how a projectile has speed changes as it changes latitude, who cares what the projectile's doing? Coriolis is a detailed description of what you observe things seem to do because you turn underneath them. So if you example it with a roundabout, you can say if I observe a tree from a roundabout, the tree looks like it's coming towards me and going away, coming towards me and going away. That's Coriolis effect. The not actual deflection of the tree. Now, it doesn't mean to say that if the tree had a branch low enough to dangle over the roundabout, you wouldn't smack into it. But not because the tree's coming towards you, because you're moving towards it. So to observe Coriolis in the tree, you need to be turning towards it. And the actual effect that you will observe is you smacking into it because you're turning underneath it. Not because trees' branches are the, whatever it is in Harry Potter, the Whomping Willow. No, trees don't do that. But you turning underneath them will bring you towards them or move you away from them. And likewise, that effect called Coriolis effect would be observable on a turning Earth. You'd launch your drone and go, no, it's zooming away 1,000 miles an hour! It's just hovering, though. According to the globe Earth claim, you turn underneath it to observe it drifting away. At 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, that's 15 degrees an hour. So we don't observe that effect. It doesn't happen. And when we say it doesn't happen, what do we hear them cry? We wouldn't expect to see it drift. Even though that's the claim that the globe Earth has to prove it's spinning. We're supposed to see drift, and we don't. So they argue about why we don't see drift, when you're supposed to see it on a turning Earth. Holding both positions simultaneously. I've said that 2 or 3 times to try and round this on to the next housekeeping question. Any more on this particular subject? Then I'll plug my show that comes out at 11:15 tonight UK time.
Yeah.
Isn't
Neil
Coriolis...
deGrasse.
Go on, Elijah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson made himself look really silly when he stated that about the football. That's all I got to say.
Gotta disagree with you. That is just their claim, though. He didn't make himself silly. He affirmed the actual globe claim. We observe from the stands the ball curved through the goal because Earth's turning underneath it. That's the claim. That's what Coriolis is. It's just that simple.
He solidified it.
Right. But we don't observe that at all whatsoever because they will double speak. They'll go, well, this works. But no, you can't get it from a drone or a plane or a helicopter or a balloon. But this will do that, but that won't.
Yeah, we covered that.
But
That's
why do you think they struggle so much whenever we ask them, well, where do we see this in reality? Like just the other day, other guy was like, well, a lot of stuttering and stammering couldn't decide where to see this in reality. But Smoking the Grass Tyson tells you real quick, I was just watching television and I could just get up and do a quick calculation as to how this football deviated because the ground underneath rotated, right? So it should be that simple. But it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
They don't argue it. That's why
it's not
they throw him under the bus.
Because if there was a blimp filming the game, and it's claimed that Earth takes a 1/4 inch deflection to the right as Earth turns underneath the ball, therefore the field goal is made, well, then that example is massively exaggerated if you're hovering above the game filming it in a blimp. Earth's going to be continually turning underneath it, like it's claimed to be turning under the ball because it's left the ground. But the blimp doesn't experience that effect, neither do hot air balloons or drones or aeroplanes or helicopters or anything else that's in the air for any significant amount of time. So we use him as a hostile witness because they deny their own claim when we point out it doesn't happen. No, Earth and atmosphere travel as one, they tell us. Therefore, no drift. Well, you're getting an example from Neil deGrasse Tyson of the ball drifting. A deflection is the not actual deflection you observe from the stand. Coriolis effect.
This is
That's
where
why I said it's silly. That's why I said it's silly, because only flat earthers that use actual science will notice that it's just it's funny. It is. It really is.
Well, that's what they're saying the sun is. You know,
Go on, Adam.
It's moving.
I was just saying this is how and where the priests get to make their statement. Like Neil, he gets to make these statements. It's taken from some of his scripture and he quotes it and gives it to the masses. The trouble is, obviously, is it forces symptoms 1 and 4. They're forced at trench level to go into self-contradiction and to maintain their position against a flat earther's argument. They've got no choice but then to go into the globe blasphemy and deny the obvious statements that their priests have just made because they can't agree with them, because it forces them into that contradiction again. So they're forced into blasphemy.
Yeah, because Tyson's he doesn't have to debate it.
Yeah.
Right? He can just state it and have some talking head, like whatever that guy's name is that's on Star Talk with him all the time. Just say, yeah. You know, everything you say is great. It's wonderful. Right? He's never going to have anybody challenge that. That's why he can say it. And that's why the people that are challenged on it, they throw him under the bus hard and fast.
I think
Nathan,
Or they'll argue
Nathan,
that
you
we're
recall
misinterpreting
the
them.
guy that,
Hold on, I got 3 people. I had Rams first, then 10th, then Elijah. Go on, Rams.
Or they often argue that you're misinterpreting what they've said. That's the other way they'll go.
Or demand that you give a citation for their claim. Ultimately, just a burden of proof reversal fallacy. You've got to now prove my claim is actually my claim because you've disproved it. Go on,
I was going to say the other day, that guy came on and you gave him the roundabout example. And he took the roundabout example and he says, yeah, the outer rim speed of the roundabout is more area to cover, so you're moving faster. But if you go to the middle of the roundabout, it's a much slower speed. And you nailed him on it because you said, well, that's not Coriolis. We're talking about a not actual drift that should be taking place. So they've changed the argument to the outer rim and the inner part of a roundabout spinning rather than the Earth spinning underneath things.
Yeah, well,
correct. Well, that was actually QE that caught that, and it was QE that held him to task on it. Detailing speed changes has nothing to do with you observing things not actually drifting, only seeming to because you turn underneath, because that's what Coriolis is. Nothing to do with speed changes on a roundabout. That show actually comes out tonight, so I've already scheduled it with the trailer for it, and the trailer I also released. So check it out. Be Here or Be Sphere. It's at 11:15 UK time, after the most recent, or just before the weekend's uncut and after show that goes out on my second channel. So at, let me get it right, I think it's 9 PM UK time, the uncut and after show goes out on Nathan Oakley channel, and then when that finishes at 11:15 PM on the main channel, Nathan Oakley 1980, is just that section, that guy's debate for the last, 30 minutes, maybe a bit longer, of the uncut and after show 1347, I'm going to say. Anyway, that's being trimmed out and it will be rebroadcast tonight.
I thought you did really well there, Nathan, on that one, because it was a good example of what they're discussing Coriolis, and he's desperate. He's trying to set up those analogies on the roundabouts to try and turn Coriolis into globiolis, and you never let him get anywhere near it. You kept him on Coriolis, even though he was trying to mutate it into globiolis, so he could then have his differential nonsense. Yeah, I think it was a bit longer than half an hour, wasn't it? It was a good session.
But it seemed longer because a common virus started off by kicking off and double speaking his way around the fact that he claimed Coriolis effect and then couldn't actually show it and had to double speak his way around it. So that went on for about 20 minutes. And then the guy followed up after a cum virus. He's like, what's being talked about here? What's being claimed? It's like, immediately launches into establishing what we understand the claim is of Earth and it having drift. It's like, why are we detailing our understanding of your claim? Why aren't you just showing it us? Well, because it doesn't happen.
I think, but most of the problem is that they don't even understand their claims, because at some point he started saying, I believe he was saying, well, what do you mean? Do you mean the drift or do you mean the Coriolis? Not understanding that's what the hell the drift is called. Globers, the apparent deviation, that's called the Coriolis effect. That's what we're talking about.
And
Yeah, it's visual drift, not actual drift.
Yeah, but eventually we got to that, though. We got to the point where he's got two different positions simultaneously. Well, we don't say that everything should have Earth turning underneath it. It's like, oh, right, well, where's this reference that says Earth has sometimes got Coriolis effect, but sometimes doesn't? He's like, well, no, I don't have a reference for that. It's like, yeah, because it's a contrasting position. You can't have Earth with Coriolis effect and Earth not with Coriolis effect, even though you want to argue for why Earth doesn't have Coriolis effect, because it doesn't have it. Even asked me at one point, can I argue against that? So it's pointed out that Earth's claim to be turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour to cause Coriolis effect. He said, well, I'd like to argue against that, please. Like, what? Your globe argument that you're supposed to actually prove, you want to argue against that? Yeah, I do, yeah. Because I don't think we claim that. It's like, what?
Me in the back, I was like, yes, please argue against that. Go ahead and debunk your own claim. Sure, we'll listen.
It's an interesting fact that when that happens, someone says, yeah, but your Army field manuals that you state, you have to adjust for Earth turning underneath the military round that's being fired. So what are you arguing against?
That they travel together, no drift. And then they want you to cite it. You know, it's a useful opportunity for me to point out how stupid Simon Dan is. Because Simon Dan didn't understand what Coriolis effect was, to the point where, when I detail what the globe claims, he told me that the reference frames used to describe Coriolis effect were debunked. It's like, you don't appreciate that is your claim on the globe, that you need to show drift with two reference frames. But when I highlight that is a globe claim that doesn't happen, you tell me the reference frames we're debunking are debunked. Well, thank you very much, Simon Dan. Yeah, we agree, you and your reference frames are ruined. There is no drift. Maybe give us another example of a man not drifting on a trampoline. Because that's really useful to show how people don't drift.
And that's why I was trying to jump in earlier. People don't realize what the people here in the trench level is actually saying. Like, because they're saying that the Earth is moving, but the reason that we don't experience it, because here on Earth, including the atmosphere, up into wherever people believes it ends, is actually moving with the Earth. So, like, if you have a drone that's hovering over the Earth, it's actually also traveling with the Earth, even though it doesn't appear to be doing anything at all. I think people would think that was absurd if you was telling them, hey, the atmosphere, everything that you experience is surface winds from different directions. How could that be happening when you think that for some reason, gas, which has no intermolecular bonds, is just traveling with something that's spinning forever? Why?
And meanwhile, if they're travelling together, they're not drifting apart.
Well, this is where Rumpus came in and said, when you're in a train going 80 miles an hour, a closed system, is that what you believe the Earth is? They're in trouble.
Sorry, Nick.
No, go on.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut on the end there. It's all... Everything they do is, like, especially the Coriolis argument is the best globe flat argument there is, because it shows up what they have to do. They have to convolute not only the actual Coriolis effect, but the conservation of angular momentum, and do everything they can mathematically possible to not concede that we don't observe the Coriolis effect. They have to do their best to come up with a whole completely different version of this, and that's actually globiolis. Because as has been said on the show a few times recently, as soon as they concede to any of it, the globe is over. So if even one of them concede, you know, that is Coriolis effect, we don't observe it, that's that. They can't, that's that. Then they're on a stationary, they might believe they're on a globe, but they're on a stationary globe. That changes everything. You know, it's like Jenga, isn't it? You keep pulling out those blocks, something's going to fall. And that's the problem. They can't concede to anything, because as soon as they make any concession about anything, the globe is over for them. So we're fighting against their, it's not argument against argument. Our arguments win all the time. It's us trying to get them to concede that reality is not what they think it is.
It can't be done.
To be.
It can't be done. So in that regard, we're just appealing to the audience, and I've said this many times. What we are selling isn't going to get bought by our opponent, but the example will be heard by the audience of them having absolutely no humility, refusing point blank to accept when they've lost their argument, reasserting their argument for a circle jerk chant session when it's been taken to pieces, holding but two positions at the same time, having both positions pointed out to you, and then being told that you don't understand, even though you've demonstrated that they're holding two positions and highlighting those two positions, repeating their two positions back to them. You get told you don't understand and that you need to hear the positions again. You know, that's very telling for an audience, but you're never going to get them to say, yeah, I get it. I can't both claim Earth and atmosphere travel as one to give no 15 degrees an hour deviation. That's a Coriolis effect. And Earth has Coriolis effect, as is claimed to prove its spin. I can't hold both positions because they can't both be true. But I will hold both positions, and when you point out that one's wrong, I'll hold the other one. When you point that's wrong, I'll demand you prove that's a claim I make.
Yeah, because concession means concession. Once they concede to anything that we put forward, especially in the housekeeping questions, even one concession from any of them on that, and their whole world starts to crumble immediately. Well, the world they believe they're on.
I thought concession was snacks in the back.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what we have to say to them,
About
but they won't accept it. But like I say, those words aren't for that person, they're for the audience.
Sounds a lot like we've never seen the geometric horizon.
Yeah, another position held simultaneously, that you have fundies demanding that you don't understand refraction, 7/6 of a presupposed radius value that we've debunked with the black swan if you can't derive an R value from a physical horizon because you're claiming it's refracted. Yeah, we understand. And we point that out, and they tell us that we don't understand. That it's refracted. Non-physical. I like it. I like watching their cognitive pain because it is so telling for the audience. I was going to say entertaining, but I find it far more educational than entertaining. When I listen back to the shows, I think, yeah, that's got more concise. I want this argument to be shorter.
Well, what they do is they go to other channels and start slipping in the 7/6R there, and they slip it in very subtly. And what they'll do is they try and fight arguments that are happening on this channel over there with what's the term, Nathan, where there's like little messages being given to people, or but they don't know the message. It's like done through advertising. What's the term for that, Nathan?
Subliminal.
Subliminal?
Yeah, subliminal. Yeah. They actually use that. I've heard some of the barrel ballers use that on other channels, saying little things just every time a particular argument comes up. 2 or 3 of them will say the same kind of thing, or will say a couple of words, and it's all trying to get into people's heads. It's like a little subliminal thing against the arguments that are happening on this channel.
I think it's more of a foundational issue. They come here, and we don't put up with begging the question whatsoever. And the whole globe, any claim from the globe is first based on begging the question. So they come here, they get slaughtered. They go to these other channels where they do put up with begging the question, and they get a little bit of life, and their pulse starts, working, and they get a heartbeat there. But when they come here, they get pummeled.
Yes, but what happens is they slip it in nice subtle sometimes on these other channels, and they do it at a time when the emotions are high, so it's not noticed. So people end up arguing the very thing they want people to argue, without people even realizing that the 7/6, let's say, for instance, has been slipped in there, and that they're actually arguing within a begging the question fallacy. They actually don't even realize it because the person does it. Rumpus will do it, Ruhif, all these people will do it, and they'll do it subtly, and it's timed. It's timed when they do it. So the argument goes down the pathway they want it to go, where they always have a chance.
Well, they have to do that because it's too much pain. The cognitive dissonance that they get to meet here on this show is so much pain. They need to go and alleviate that pain. So they subliminally do the begging the question. The other stations fall for it. And now they're talking everything except the thing that caused the pain. So it's a little relief. It's a little ibuprofen for the ballers to do that, I think.
Well, I actually heard something. There was an argument being made on one of the channels there recently, and I heard the argument was actually taken apart by optical drop, but nobody talked about optical drop. But one of the ballers, I won't say which one of the well-known ballers, slipped in, and it's nothing to do with parallel, which is the very thing that causes optical drop, right? And they slipped it in without anyone even mentioning optical drop. They slipped it in. It was to do with the tightness of angle of view to the bottom of something. And they weren't even talking about that. They were trying to talk about the angular size of the thing. And the thing about it is they slipped in. It's nothing to do with the parallel. It's nothing to do with parallel. One of them slipped in. Like, it's like a little message. It's like, before anyone ever got to even argue the point of where we'll get to optical drop, in case anyone was likely to argue that, they threw in, it's nothing to do with parallel. So straight away, they're cutting the legs out from underneath an argument before it starts. Or that's their attempt, you know, that kind of thing.
But that's what you and me are saying. They have to do that because they have to steer it that way in order for the begging the question to take effect.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. As flat earthers, we are passionate about this, and we are more likely to get defensive and get angry before them. They are normally the cooler customers who just go around in circles. But behind the scenes, they are not cool. They act in the debate. They act like the cool customers. But all they have to do is keep going around in the circle. That's all they have to do. So it doesn't matter what words they use, as long as they keep going around in the circle. Whereas we're trying to get to the center of that circle and obliterate it. Whereas they just keep going around in a circle. So we end up coming across as more the aggressive, more the defensive, but that's because we are trying to be honest, whereas they're not trying to be honest. They're just trying to avoid.
Well, I see it a little different. I see it that we're using logic and not violating logic, and they are violating logic, and they look like a fool.
Yes, and I'm sure they have more sleepless nights than we have to deal with this subject.
Oh, for certain. Yeah, without doubt.
Yeah. But in the debate, they can sound like they're cool. Go on.
I was just going to say, I sleep like a baby. Nathan, do you want to play that little
happy and
that little video that I put in the chat the other day? Just a nice little concession from a baller.
Which chat was that, and where do I find it in Yes I Can?
Gosh, give me a second.
Okay, go on, Rams.
a lot of the ballers feel happy and safe in the knowledge that they're on the side of the world consensus. Although we realize how meaningless that really is, they find comfort in it.
Again, I don't want to be disagreeable with you. I think it's the other way around. In other words, they fear the rejection that an acknowledgement of these arguments would leave them with. They suddenly wouldn't be standing with consensus, and I think that idea terrifies them.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, I agree with that.
But they'll say, well, nobody thinks you're right. The majority agree with me. I'm on the side of consensus. Like, somehow that will bring them comfort. Yeah, that's true. Doesn't make you right, though. And we can prove how you're wrong. And as you say, none of us have got sleepless nights over this. None of us give it, well, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody. After the show's done, I give it little to no consideration beyond the statistics of YouTube. Obviously, I've got my 100% full passionate flat earth hat on while I'm doing the show, but after it, I'm not worried about how some argument went. Far from it, because it makes no difference to me. I'm not going to ever climb back over the blue pill wall. It's impossible to do, once you've realised the nature of your reality. And you've been, in my case, spent 4 or 5 years with people presenting absolutely no evidence and then moving on to demolishing the claim they use as a straw man that we don't understand science. Turns out they don't have any science. There's absolutely no proof whatsoever that we live on a spinning sphere flying through a sky vacuum. In fact, many of those concepts for that philosophy stand directly in violation of natural law. It's absurd to think you are on a ball. So am I going to go to sleep thinking, oh God, I stand on the position that stands in direct contradiction to the Western world's view that they're on a sphere? No, I feel very much relieved that I'm not on that nonsense merry-go-round anymore. Thank you very much.
I've never felt personally comfortable being on the side of consensus. There's always felt something wrong about it.
Can I give an example of that? Remember back in the day when the consensus was no one believed in germ theory of any kind, so doctors rarely, if ever, washed their hands between one operation to another. And then someone stood up and said, hey, I think we ought to clean the instruments between operations and wash our hands, and he was laughed at.
Nathan, I put that video in Ballbusters.
Nightingale and Pastor. Which video in Master B, did you say?
Ballbusters.
Ballbusters, okay.
But it's funny, actually, that the ballers use the same argument when they talk about how stupid the first people that claimed the Earth was a ball were accused of being stupid. So it's a funny one.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous that they use consensus on flat earthers. Because if we were worried about consensus, we wouldn't be flat earthers. Because consensus is all you'll be getting attacked with. So those who aren't flat earthers or those who won't come out as flat earthers are worried about consensus. We're not.
They can't help
Indio,
themselves.
unorthodox Indio.
Oh, that was India?
Yeah,
that was Indio. Dude.
unorthodox
Wait,
and
yes.
Indio. Unorthodox and Indio. Yeah.
So how does a boat disappear in 500 feet when the globe model predicts the horizon is 2,600 feet away? So what's blocking the boat if it's not at the horizon yet? I don't see anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth, my friend.
Quick
Snacks
question.
in the back, bathrooms to the left, DJs taking requests, and smoke them if you got them. Welcome, unorthodox. Unorthodox.
Doesn't disappear. It just
unresolved. You just snatched your own wig off. Unorthodox.
Look, this video I just.
Yeah. The myriad of things that
Awesome.
can cause stuff to disappear from bottom up in the distance. And when it happens prior to the assertion that there should be a physical geometric sphere edge blocking your view from bottom up, it's asserted by unorthodox, the globe-believing fundamentalist religious zealot, well, that's just angular resolution. It's like, all right. But when it happens in coincidence with your maths that removes all aspects of that optical phenomenon, you're going to say it's Earth curve. Well, yeah, of course. I can beg the question, right?
Quick question,
No
Nathan.
coincidence that was the same guy that showed up here and said after the Black Swan. But you forgot about optics, guys.
We forgot about our own argument that we pummel yours with for its lack of optics. Yeah, we forgot all about that. Maybe throw optics at us when your maths doesn't include them. Wonderful. Wonderful rebuttal, unorthodox. You're as dumb as Simon Dan. Maybe what next? Tell us that my reference frames are ruined for Coriolis? Clown. Who is it that was trying to ask me something from Discord? Go ahead.
Yeah, looming and refraction. Would you agree with me that it doesn't have a limit?
Looming?
Well, yeah, looming and refraction. I mean, there's a lot of atmosphere and weather conditions, but would you agree with me there is no limit?
I don't know.
Can I answer that?
Well, free. Go ahead.
Thanks. Liu-Ming, would you define it for us, please?
Well, I mean,
Liu-Ming in particular.
when okay, so I'm not arguing the globe at all, because on a globe on a fixed horizon, there would be a limit. I've observed there is no limit, because you got like 5 miles away. It used to be 3 miles, boats disappear the curve. They just keep moving the goalpost and keep saying refraction, refraction. So there's no limit then.
Yeah, but
Liu-Ming, I'm
Liu-Ming,
saying
you
if
see,
you have,
they're claiming Liu-Ming a long time, but Liu-Ming is not what they claim. Their claim of
right,
Liu-Ming involves a physical geometric horizon.
right. And what I'm saying is looming as in
the actual effect of what they're calling Liu-Ming is actually just the sky miraging onto the water, giving the effect of a closer horizon than apparent horizon than is really there, as the actual apparent horizon is actually behind the object. So their version of what they call Liu-Ming, it's kind of standing on your question a little bit, but I just want to be precise about it. What they're calling Liu-Ming doesn't exist. Because not only would that require a physical geometric horizon, but it would also require a completely different thing from what they even claim. Sorry.
You're a moron, Brian, an absolute moron. You've no idea what you're talking about.
When you have a wait a minute.
Describes object
definition of
in reference to the horizon, not the horizon itself.
Right. Wait a minute. What I'm saying is, if you have a small amount, like a very, very minute amount of looming, that could affect the distortion and make your observation appear that you're seeing the half of the boat disappearing.
Yeah, but what's Liu-Ming? Rumpus is really the person who should define this. Rumpus, would you give us the official definition of Liu-Ming in accordance with your model, please?
Well, looming is the raising up of things above their geometric position due to refraction in the atmosphere caused by the fact that
what would be their normal
the atmosphere is denser at the ground level than it is at the top level. That leads to light bending down, which causes things to appear higher than they geometrically are. Jesus Christ! Stop interrupting me. I was there. I'm nearly finished. Finished now, idiot.
Yeah, well, what's their geometric position? You said with their normal geometric position. What's their normal geometric position?
Well, the normal geometric position is their geometric position in 3D space. They appear not to be their geometric position in 3D space because light doesn't travel in straight lines through the atmosphere. It is bent due to refraction, and that causes things to be raised up in the normal standard refraction case.
You are begging the question of a physical geometric horizon.
Correct.
But you're not admitting
are based. So
nothing to do with horizons. It's got nothing to do with horizons.
Yes, it does.
Oh, has it not? Because I've got a quote from the Rumpus that says, and I quote verbatim, "You know it's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon." That is a direct verbatim quote from Rumpus.
It has a lot to do.
Looming happens to everything. It doesn't have to be beyond the horizon. It can be this side of the horizon, the other side of the horizon.
Not according
the bending of light
Calm down,
everything
guys.
you look at is raised up slightly due to standard refraction. Obviously, you can have non-standard refraction.
Which
in the standard case, everything you look at, including the thing 200 yards away from where you are, outside your front door, is raised up by a small amount, and the further the object is away, the more it's raised up.
Based off a physical geometric horizon.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, R based.
It's got nothing to do with horizons. Nothing to do with horizons.
Yes, it
we've debunked that.
Yes, the calculation.
No, it doesn't.
We've debunked that.
Standard. Well, you need to differentiate between standard refraction, which is a form of lower scale looming, and then when you get greater and greater refraction, then you have what Andrew Young would say was looming, and then you can, if it goes even further, then you can have what you regard as extreme looming.
Yeah, they're all based on.
Involves a physical geometric horizon.
Yeah, they're all based on R.
Correct.
On a fixed horizon, you will have a limit.
Nothing to do with horizon.
Yeah, I've just quoted you, Rumpus. He's a liar. Rumpus is saying this has nothing to do with the horizon. I've got a quote from Rumpus. I'll dig it out. I trimmed it out and played it for an audience a while back. Quote the Rumpus. "You know it's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon." End quote. The Rumpus.
Yeah, that's
he's
because
lying right
looming
now.
can occur with respect to the horizon.
Yeah, you said you know it's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon. So the horizon can't be looming, and your looming begs the question of an R value that we've debunked with the black swan.
Well, the horizon is loomed up.
No, you can't loom the horizon with respect to the horizon. That's nonsense, doublespeak. You're saying you know the horizon's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon?
No, I was...
Well, that's what horizon's looming would be, because according to you, you know something's looming because its position with respect to the horizon. So you're saying you know the horizon's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon? That's nonsense, Rumpus. You're just being silly.
Can be loomed up.
No, because you know something's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon. End quote, the Rumpus. Well, if you know the horizon's looming, then according to you, you know the horizon's looming because, quote, of its position with respect to the horizon? That makes no sense.
Determine looming otherwise. That's a helpful indicator.
Your looming assumes R. You haven't addressed that yet. Do you want to assume your assumption of R that we've debunked? Because you'd need a physical geometric horizon that's not refracted to get this R value.
Oh, loomed.
Do you want to address that? Or maybe talk through me constantly? Choice is yours. I'll give you a couple of minutes to decide.
With respect to the horizon.
Yeah, you're going to talk through me constantly, or maybe address something? Rumpus, coward,
Everything.
coward, coward.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Talk through me constantly,
because
coward.
You don't let me finish a sentence.
Yeah. Now you can tell me that I'm not letting you finish. So we've brought up the issue of R. We've debunked it. It's dead, and we've debunked it by proving it's not physical. And you're now arguing for a not physical horizon, so you can't get R. Because if the horizon's not physical, then you can't derive your R-based refraction with it. Coward.
Therefore, can be loomed with respect to the...
You're just a coward, talking through me constantly. For the audience's benefit, I'm going to give Rumpus 2.5 minutes to listen and address this point that has been raised and put to him. See if he talks through me constantly and maybe claims I'm talking through him.
Is loomed.
So
everything,
R's
including the horizon,
R's
is
dead.
loomed.
Okay, Rumpus, we heard you.
Everything, including the horizon, is loomed.
We heard you.
Everything,
we heard you.
Including
This needs to be a stuck record.
Is loomed.
Stuck record.
Everything, including the
We
horizon,
heard you the first 45 times.
No,
please.
I don't think you have. Everything, including the horizon. Look, now I've said it now. See, that was easy.
Nathan,
Just give me 5 seconds, and then you can now respond. It's your turn.
Okay, your looming includes an R value that has been debunked by a modus tollens
Not being
argument.
debunked at all.
Oh, I only needed 5 seconds. My God, you needed 50,000 repetitions of the same thing, but you can't let me address you. You total coward. What a coward.
It's annoying to be able.
What a coward. I'll try again. So the R value you're using to claim the horizon is moved with respect to the horizon, that would be looming, is using an R value that's been debunked by the following argument, if you can tolerate it and aren't a coward. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon, that would be the physical geometric horizon, can be no more than 1.2. Who's talking
Well,
to
it
me?
depends on how high you are.
It seems that Rumpus is an abject coward. He can't tolerate this debunking of his globe model. He's got to talk through me after objecting whilst repeating the same statement that's also been debunked about 50 times. What a coward. Now, if you're on the globe side right now, I'd be pretty disappointed in your compadre, because I'm just trying to put an argument to him that debunks his assertion that he's made 1,000 times. The horizon's moved with respect to the horizon it's loomed. He said that about 50 times and I'm addressing it, because your refraction value uses R that needs a physical horizon, and you're moving the horizon to a non-physical location with that statement. That's a paradox, my friend. Maybe talk through me non-stop rather than actually addressing it, because you know you've lost. The globe's dead. We've debunked R, and your looming needs R.
All the time. It's dependent on the observer's height.
Yeah, that's based on an R value we've
He's
debunked.
making a massive mistake, Nathan.
The horizon was such and such far away, but you didn't.
Hold on, Brian. Hold on, Brian. Brian, you're making matters worse.
It's dependent on the height.
Yeah, you're making matters worse, Brian.
Well.
Brian.
It's dependent on the height of the observer, and you didn't mention that.
Sorry, the dependent on height observer values based on an R that's been debunked, that you won't listen to the argument that I'm trying to put forward.
How?
And you're now interrupting
Okay,
it
how
again.
did
Let's
you
see if you can tolerate modus tollens that you're scared of. So, if the Earth is a sphere, then every distance to horizon, that would be a physical, geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That would be the observer's height in feet, Rumpus. Sorry, did you say I ignored that? It's a shame you can't listen and are scared of this argument.
Anyway, hear you say that.
Anyway, you're scared of this argument. We know.
No, not at all. I love it.
Every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet if we have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. Now, that is the horizon that is being utilised, scared of the modus tollens argument, ladies and gentlemen,
and that's
to derive your R value.
Can I reply?
Going to have to kick him out. He's scared of modus tollens. You're scared of this?
You
scared? I haven't even got to the end of the argument yet, and you're scared to hear it.
Come on, then. Jesus Christ.
I don't blaspheme here. Just because we've destroyed your globe Earth, now I'm going to crucify it. I'm going to nail that geometric R value that you're using to refract the horizon with respect to the horizon. I'm going to nail that to a cross, and we're all going to watch it die. Now, you don't have to listen to that, but I will say my argument that debunks this assumed R value used to move the horizon. Well, hold on. If you're using R to move the horizon, how are you getting the R? Because that's derived from a physical geometric sphere edge horizon.
Right. Finished. Have you finished? Can I speak now?
I asked a question. Are you going to answer it?
Oh, my God.
I asked a question. You don't need to continually blaspheme. I'm asking a question. I'm asking if you're going to answer it or maybe acknowledge the question. Are you? Maybe you're just going to blaspheme non-stop while I pummel you and crucify an R value that's moving a horizon that needs to be physical to have the horizon move with an R value that it's derived from.
I'm trying to reply to that. I'm trying to reply to that very argument you've just made. The point is that you're going to use an image, a photograph, as an example of this, and of course that's affected by refraction. A geometric horizon is not...
Sorry, the refraction that the R value's been derived from a physical sphere edge horizon with, well, that refraction's got an R value that needs a physical horizon, doesn't it?
Refraction?
Yeah, that refraction's got R in it. Standard refraction, terrestrial refraction, that needs R. Well, that R is derived from a physical horizon, and you seem to be moving the horizon with an R value that's derived from a physical horizon to make the horizon be refracted. Well, you can't refract the horizon with R if you can't get R because R needs to make the horizon physical. This is a paradox, Rumpus. You're not addressing it. You're saying I'm not accounting for a fraction that needs a physical horizon to be applied. But you don't want to listen to that because you're scared of the modus tollens argument. You're scared of it. You don't want to listen to it. You want to just bark refraction back at me and ignore the actual argument.
No refraction, Nathan. Don't allow for refraction. It's very...
Well, 7/6 of the radius value derived from a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve. That refraction.
No, that's standard refraction.
So standard refraction that needs a physical horizon. Yes, I do know which refraction you're using. It's got an R value in it that needs a physical horizon. And you're telling me you're going to use that R value to move the horizon into a non-physical location? Well, then the horizon's not a physical location, Rumpus. But yet your R value needs it to be.
When you're dealing with an apparent horizon that's...
Apparent? But your R value's got a physical geometric horizon, so apparent would be non-physical. So you admit that the horizon's not a physical sphere edge then. It's not a physical horizon, it's apparent, right? Non-physical.
Atmosphere that refracts light.
Yeah, at the rate of R that you need the horizon to be physical to derive the R from. So to get this R value, you need the horizon to be physical. And you're saying, well, with a physical horizon, to get an R value, I'm going to move the horizon to a non-physical location with the R value I got from the physical horizon.
Allowing for refraction.
Well, R-based refraction that you need a physical horizon for. Yeah, we're going round in circles, Fundy. Share your pain.
Horizon. But we've got an apparent horizon that's...
Oh, so we've got two horizons, apparent and geometric.
The one we see... where the sky meets the sea is the apparent horizon. That's determined by refraction.
And is that physical?
Quoted, doesn't allow for refraction.
And does that horizon that we see consist of a physical geometric sphere edge?
It's a relocated sphere edge, but it's...
So it's not physical then? It's in a different position, non-physical. So it's not geometric then?
Physical.
So it's not geometric. Just let's get clarity.
It's another position on
the not
Earth,
geometric.
It's not at the geometric horizon.
So it's not a geometric horizon. Well, then you can't draw a tangent to it to get the R value.
Geometric horizon?
No, we don't have one. You've just told us we don't have a geometric horizon. The one we see isn't that.
Correct.
So therefore, Al-Biruni couldn't measure a tangent point to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Earth as a sphere is therefore debunked because your model asserts that we have a physical geometric sphere edge horizon to block boats and buildings with its physicality. And Al-Biruni derived the R value you're using to move the horizon into a non-physical apparent location. Well, if it's a non-physical location, then it's not Earth curve, because it's not geometric.
He reduced the error between the geometric and the apparent horizon by going...
What geometric horizon? We don't have one of those.
Or looking down...
What geometric horizon? We don't have one.
And didn't...
What geometric horizon? We don't have one.
Water level.
What geometric horizon? We don't have one. You've just told us that. Maybe ignore me.
What are you saying? Were you not allowing me to...
Would you?
What? Al-Biruni...
What geometric horizon? We don't have one. You've just told us. The apparent horizon isn't geometric. That's what you've just told us. So what geometric horizon, coward?
The error between the geometric horizon...
What geometric horizon? You've just told us we don't have one.
Well, it's there mathematically, and it's...
Oh, so it's not real? It's just mathematical?
It becomes...
Not real? Not physical? Not actual? So we don't have an actual Earth curve edge. It's just maths.
It comes close to the apparent horizon.
Well, that's not geometric. I don't care how close your maths comes. That's not real.
It becomes close to the apparent horizon if you get up...
What does? The geometric horizon we don't have?
Correct.
We don't have that. So I don't care how close it comes. We don't have one. You've just told us we don't have a geometric horizon. Well, the geometric horizon Rumpus tells us we don't have is marked with an X, labelled horizon in his geometric Earth curve maths. It's physical and claimed to be physically blocking things. He also tells us how much it's physically blocking things with a feet and inches value. But he's also now arguing for it being non-physical, non-geometric, not capable of being measured by Al-Biruni, because he needs a tangent line, non-bent, non-refracted, especially not refracted with an R value that used a physical location with a tangent point to get it. So the globe's dead. Earth is obviously and observably flat, and you don't have a geometric, physical sphere edge for a horizon.
It is. It's close to the apparent horizon.
We don't see one. Close to it. You've just told me it only exists in maths.
It's close to the apparent horizon.
It only exists in maths. We don't have it close to it. We can't see it. It's not within a few inches. It's not even there. How can it be close to it? It's not in close proximity. It only exists in maths. That would be your Earth curve edge horizon. Only exists in maths.
And it's as close to the apparent horizon as you need it to be. Within 5...
Close to it? Give it me within inches.
No, it depends. That depends on your height.
No. Close to it, you can't have a physical geometric sphere edge that only exists in maths being close to, within close proximity to, something that actually is seen and is non-physical. That's our horizon. Because your geometric horizon only exists in maths.
Horizon. And if you go up nice and high, it's very close to the apparent horizon.
How close? Give it to me within feet.
It's within 5%.
5%? You're saying within 5% of something we see is something that we don't see.
Well, you don't see it as a horizon. It's there.
What don't we see? Earth curve, edge, horizon, physical, geometric. We don't see that.
But people...
Sorry, you're saying we don't see geometric sphere, edge, horizon?
The sea.
Sorry, I'm trying to get clarity on what we don't see. Or I'll just give it as you constantly interrupt me. So we don't see a physical geometric sphere edge.
Where the sky meets the sea, we call that...
Yeah, that's a horizon, and it's apparent. It's not physical or geometric, according to you.
Very close to the geometric horizon.
Which only exists in the maths, so it's not close to it. You can't give it me within feet and inches because we've only got one horizon, and your geometric Earth curve horizon only exists in maths.
And it's very close to the apparent horizon.
How close in feet and inches when we've only got one horizon?
Within 5%.
Within 5%? So you're saying we can see a geometric horizon within 5% of the one we do see?
Well, when you say see the geometric horizon, it doesn't...
I mean, do we see Earth curve?
The apparent horizon is caused by Earth curve.
Caused by? So the apparent horizon is caused by a physical horizon that we don't see?
Correct.
Well, if we don't see it, how did Al-Biruni measure it?
You do see it. You do see it. You do.
Sorry, now we do see it. So where do we see the geometric horizon then?
The geometric horizon is closer to you than the apparent horizon.
And we can see it because it's within 5% of something, even though we can't actually see it.
Well, you can see it. It's just...
So we can see a geometric sphere edge horizon. So we can see Earth curve.
Of course you can see Earth curve.
Show me a geometric sphere edge horizon.
Okay, any picture you take of a horizon will have the apparent horizon in it, and just...
Apparent means not actual. Physical geometric, not apparent, that means not actual.
Listen, you're interrupting.
Do you not understand what apparent means? Do I need to educate you as a flat earther?
I know you're frightened of my
Do you need me to educate you? I'm not frightened. Do you not know what apparent means?
I know you don't want me to give...
Scaredy cat doesn't know what apparent means and is now obfuscating it.
You look
Do you need me to educate you on what apparent means, coward?
And you see a horizon.
Do you know what apparent means?
And the geometric horizon.
Sorry, we don't see a geometric horizon. It's apparent. Apparent means not actual, appearing but not actually. You don't know what apparent means. You're thick.
It doesn't look like a horizon.
You're completely thick. You came here accusing Brian of being stupid. Yet in reality, you don't know what apparent means. That means not actual, not physical, not geometric.
Where the sea meets the sky.
Yeah, that's apparent location, not physical, not geometric.
Closer to you. But it doesn't look. There's nothing about it visually that makes it look like a horizon, because it's not. The apparent horizon is what visually looks like a horizon, and that's a little bit further away than geometric horizon. But if you're up nice and
a little bit further away, give it me in feet, give it me in inches, give it me in an actual physical measurement for the second horizon we don't see.
But it's a percentage.
A percentage is a mathematical value, not something we see. Geometric is Earth curve physical horizon. Where do we see it?
You see the geometric horizon slightly closer to you than the apparent horizon, but it doesn't...
Give me in inches and feet. How much closer is this second horizon?
It's about 5% closer.
We only have one horizon. The horizon in your geometric sphere edge mathematics is physical. The horizon we actually see is apparent. That's not physical. Now, you're saying the physical horizon can be seen within 5% of the apparent horizon. Well, I've got a horizon on screen for my audience now. Show me where, within 5% of this horizon, we can see a physical second horizon.
Listed to you. Do you remember all the horizons that QE listed to you from the...
I've only got one on screen, and you're telling me there's a second non-visible, only existing in maths, geometric, physical, sphere edge horizon that's within 5% of the one on screen. Where is it?
Okay, hold on. Where's it on screen? Hold on, let me get the... I've lost...
There's only one horizon. There's not a second geometric one, you clown.
Let me go and find
Do you think when you look for it, you're going to see a second horizon that's geometric within 5%?
Feel what you're seeing.
Are you thick? The globe-believing moron thinks we've got two horizons.
We need to go and have a look. What
for the second one that we can't see? We haven't got a geometric sphere edge for a horizon. The only horizon we see, and Rumpus has admitted it on this live stream, is apparent. Now, apparent means appearing, but not actual. And their geometric, physical, sphere edge horizon, which Rumpus says only exists in the maths, according to him, is within 5% of the horizon we see. Now, at that point, Rumpus believes we have two horizons.
Tell me what photograph you're referring me to?
The one that's on screen for over 100 people. 136 people can see that there's only one horizon. And the horizon in their Earth curve maths is physical and geometric. But Rumpus makes it plain that doesn't exist in reality. We don't see it. He also says we can see it within 5% of the one that's not actual, apparent, where the sky appears to meet the ground. Apparently, there's also a second one within 5% of that.
Seeing this image from space, are we, of the horizon?
Space is fake. That would be an area that gas would fill. Anyway, there's not two horizons. There is no geometric horizon within 5% of the one we see.
Two visual ones, Nathan. There's not two visual ones. This is what you don't...
So there isn't a geometric physical Earth curve edge horizon then? We can't see that?
There's the visual one, which we call the apparent horizon.
And that's not geometric. So we do not see a geometric horizon. There's only one. The one we see isn't a physical geometric sphere edge. We can't see that.
But to understand what I'm saying...
Oh, I don't understand. Yeah, you told me that there was a second geometric sphere edge that mathematically, only mathematically, comes within 5% of the one we see. And when I ask you to show it me, you make it explicitly clear. We don't see a physical geometric sphere edge Earth curve horizon. That's only within 5% on paper in maths. But we don't see it. We would see it. My modus tollens argument made it explicitly clear how and where we would see it if it was real. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height, rumpus, in feet. And what do you know? We can show that the horizon is way beyond the physical limitations of a geometric sphere edge. That's called a black swan, because we only have one horizon, and the horizon marked with an X and labelled horizon in their geometric sphere edge mathematics is absolutely, unequivocally physical and geometric. What we have in reality, admitted by Rumpus, is a not actual location, a position where the sky appears to meet the ground. Definitely not a physical sphere edge, definitely not an Earth curve, definitely not something that boats are going to fall over in physicality, definitely not something that's going to have an attributable feet and inches value to tell you how much has been blocking it at the bottom with its physical geometric nature, because the horizon, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely, unequivocally not physical, and they know it. But they'll tell you how the geometric Earth curve exists in the maths, because that's the only place it does exist. Earth curve isn't the horizon. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smash the super chat and all that good stuff. Also, link below this video, there is a link to get £50 back for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!